The member from Nepean Carleton.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Before I start, I just want to, on behalf of Tim Hudak and the Ontario PC Caucus, convey our deepest sympathies to our colleagues in the NDP as well as his family. Peter Cormos was a man who, those of us who were able to serve with him, not only enjoyed him, but learned an awful lot from him. And so at this hour of your need, we are there with you together. My question, Speaker, is for the Premier. Last fall, your government implemented Bill 115. For months after, and during that period, your government said it was the only way to control costs and prevent chaos in our schools. When you ran for Liberal leader, you promised you would not reopen the collective agreements imposed in this House because there was no new money in the wage envelope. Then you had secret talks with union leaders, and you promised parents around the province that those talks only revolved around process, not about more entitlements. You also started talking about the ministry envelope, not the wage envelope. Then last week you broke not one, but three promises to parents. You opened up the legislative contracts, you caved on union demands, and your secret talks weren't about process at all. The question is, what is being sacrificed in order to pay for these new perks being promised?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I wanted to take a moment to express my deepest sympathies to the families and friends of actually two former members of this legislature, Peter Cormos, the former member from Welland, whom we have acknowledged today, and Robert Algie, the former member from York East, Mr. Speaker. So regardless of where we sit in this legislature, I think we owe a debt of gratitude to each of these men who dedicated his life to public service in the province of Ontario. So my thoughts are with the officers, Mr. Speaker. And to the question from the member, Mr. Speaker, I would just say this, that I was very clear during the leadership that the process that had been undertaken over the previous year had created fracture, had created I think a very difficult and disrespectful conversation between government and the education sector, and I was determined to rectify that, Mr. Speaker, and I will say more in my supplementary.
Thank you. Supplementary.
Thanks, Speaker. It's estimated that the retirement gratuity alone is going to come in at about $63 million. Wow. That's 4 elementary schools or 2 high schools in this province, and that's what's happening, Mr. Speaker. Our $63 million figure came from consultation with school boards and others, and it's an easy calculation but based on the ministry's own facts. So if there's nothing wrong with the deal that the government has now reopened and renegotiated and given more to, then why won't they? And I'll tell you why, Speaker. They won't because of this. They initially said that there was no more money in the wage envelope. Then when they made the secret deal, it became the ministry envelope. When it became clear that that meant taking more money from full-day kindergarten, textbooks, technology, what have you, they said they found efficiencies. When they realized after a decade in office not one person in this province believes they could find efficiencies, they said they found miraculous saved money. No one believes that, Speaker. If there is so much new money found in the education budget, why is the government willing to give away the money to unions when students and boards desperately need this money for technology, textbooks, and research?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Be seated, please. Be seated, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The money that was in the envelope that was negotiated under the first agreement, Mr. Speaker, that was part of the deal, is the same money, Mr. Speaker, that is in the envelope today. What I said, Mr. Speaker, is that there were implementation details, there were changes that needed to be made, and that the money could be moved around. There is no new money in that collective agreement, Mr. Speaker. There's no new money in those contracts, Mr. Speaker. The money has been moved around. But here's the reality, Mr. Speaker. We have reopened a respective dialogue with the education sector, Mr. Speaker, and I know that there are schools in the members' riding, Mr. Speaker, where extracurriculars are back on track, Mr. Speaker, where kids are having the opportunity to take in part in extracurriculars.
I guess asking for order is not enough, and I'll just jump right to it. I will now be going after individuals. Final supplementary.
If the Premier thinks that anybody in Ontario believes that this deal doesn't cost anything. I have a power plant in Mississauga, and I'll throw one in from Oakville just so that she can make the deal, because that is just completely false. You can't increase retirement gratuities for sick days from 10 cents on the dollar to 25 cents on the dollar. That costs money. Making sure that there's more unpaid days, that costs money, Speaker. This Premier knows that there's more money being spent, but she won't be truthful to the people. The late, great Margaret Thatcher once said, if you just set out to be liked, you will be prepared to compromise on anything at any time, and you will achieve nothing. This Premier has achieved nothing for the residents and the students of this province. It is more about this Premier trying to help her electoral coalition with the Working Families Coalition than anything else. So I ask her again, what has this deal cost? Where is it going to be cut from in the rest of the ministry's budget?
Before I turn to the Premier, I'm going to ask the member to withdraw that comment.
Withdraw.
Premier. Premier.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. We're not spending more. The money that's in the contract is the same money that was in the contract when I came into this office, Mr. Speaker. I would ask the member opposite to talk to the kids who are practicing for soccer. I would ask the member opposite to talk to the kids who are practicing badminton, who are getting ready for their proms, who are getting ready for their graduations, Mr. Speaker. I'd ask the member opposite to talk to the teachers and the support staff who want to work with their kids, who want to work with government, who want to improve the education sector, Mr. Speaker. I would ask the member opposite to go to some of her schools and look in the eyes of the kids who thought they weren't going to be able to have a track season this year, Mr. Speaker, and ask them how they feel about the fact that they are going to have a track season. That's what this is about, Mr. Speaker.
Answer.
It's about those kids in the 5,000 publicly funded schools in this province who are going to have an enriched experience because we're having a respectful dialogue with their teachers and support staff.